All right, Piston fans, let's talk some Pistons, and we're going to talk about basically the heart of the city. The heart of the city. I ain't gonna say the heart of the city, but I would say the blueprint of the city. Let's talk about the bad boys and going work crew. Uh, there's a or it was, all right. Scratch that, and let's talk about how the city is. I guess how the city is presented to the rest of the world or to the other states and so forth throughout the country. Detroit image is tarnished, and I want to say far back as go back to the riots, maybe even before then, but their image is tarnished. From that point, let's say from the riots on down, it has been kick the can type deal, or kick the man when he's down, or kick the or beat the dead horse and all that stuff. It has been all that for the city of Detroit. So what happens when that attitude comes in or came in, disrespect becomes acceptable for the city. Now, a person could get up and do a video or something like that. Well, I won't let nobody disrespect my city. Detroit versus everybody. They could do that rant. But the very ones that saying that are the very ones that actually condone the disrespect. How do I? What I mean by that? The articles that someone that we would consider an outsider, quote unquote, will actually say something negative about the city. They will actually put it on as a topic to talk about. They're talking about your city. So in your return of talking about what they're talking about your city, you try to bash them for what they how they bashed you, or just don't embrace it at all. Don't play it. That's just the point of what I'm saying with this video is that the the difference between the Pistons, maybe even the Tigers, let's say the Pistons, the Tigers, and the Red Wings. The difference between those three organizations and the Lions. Each of those three has something to build off of, something to respect, right? In 50 years, the Lions have nothing to respect. There's nothing here, a part of that organization, there's something to respect. You could say Barry Sanders, you could say Calvin Johnson, you could say this player, that player, da 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 da. All right, give you all right, whatever. But there's nothing to respect. So any team that's playing against the Lions, they never out of the fight. They always believe that they can win because there's nothing to respect here. When you play against the Pistons teams, the Bad Boys, whatever, after the Bad Boys era happened, the Going to Work crew happened, and then it was nothing there, right? You saw the gap off from the Bad Boys to the Going to Work crew. There was nothing there. There was a gap. We could call it the Doug Collins era, and all that. All that was it was nothing there, right? So there was nothing to respect. So people, that was the Jordan era where he basically was running the league, and his anger for the Pistons, he took it out on the Pistons, and they had really no respect for the rest of the league. Then after that, Joe Dumars took office. From the start of Joe Dumars taking office all the way up to maybe when he left. There's that run when he took office till he left. There was a respectability. They was the best team in the league, even though they don't win the championship or they didn't get to the finals. They were the best team. They was just the best team that didn't get to the finals or get the championship. They dominated that era. Dominated. You could say them and the Spurs pretty much dominated. You could say the Lakers was up there, but it's pretty much the Spurs and the Pistons dominated their conferences. That is. So uh, after that, there was nothing there between Joe Dumars leaving and the Stan Van Gundy era or the Ed Stefanowski's or whatever the case may be, or even where it's at now. There was really nothing there. I say that to say, well, by it being nothing there was plenty of room for disrespect. Plenty of room for disrespect. But when they were on top, there was the talk of the town. People would say something negative about them, but it couldn't fly. Even in-house, they wouldn't salute the negativity. They would support what they done. Like when the Bad Boys did what they did, it took a a negative shot from the national media. They took a negative thing. They're bad for the league and all this other good stuff. But everybody embraced it here, right? And you really want to talk about it. That's why when the Celtics came to town or the Lakers came to town or any team that didn't embrace the Pistons being the bad boys or they said something negative about them, the fans gave them something to think about. All right. So after that bad boys era went down, the going to work took over. Do y'all remember when the finals when they was playing against the Lakers at the going to work crew? And they say it was called the 5-game sweep. Okay. When the Lakers came to town, it was recorded that the visitor team in their hotels didn't get any rest because the fans was making noises around their hotels and so forth. They was making this being disturbance because Detroit was saying that the way the going to work crew have assembled, they gave the city something to respect. And Detroit at that time as a whole, you wasn't going to come to disrespect Detroit. So if you came here and you wasn't going to respect us, we were going to make you, the fans took care of that. So the players fed off the energy of the fans by basically having their back. The players laid down the foundation with Ben Wallace and all of them. They've laid down their foundation so the fans could come rally that. So now the players are playing, but they got the energy of the fans. And when the players were resting, the fans took over. So they go around the hotels and everything else, banging on everything else. And when you came into the Palace during the time of that era, you know, they had I don't know what those things called, the thunder sticks, and they would beat on those sticks and everything else. Whatever. It was insane, right? So, but then you get the opposing players. They were talking about the visitors' locker room in the Palace, how it was really cramped and, you know, really not really the best. So it was, if you were really a visitor, you wasn't made to be treated with respect. Because more likely, any opponent that came here, they was coming here to disrespect the Pistons. But look at this. Look at this. Look how the Pistons made that. Now they brought in LiAngelo Ball, and there's a lot of fans. Somebody should play him and everything else. They should do this. All right. Detroit fans really don't have a lot of respect for Detroit because they're looking for the hype trail. Anything that's going to be hype. Nothing homegrown. You got two examples of two Pistons eras of being homegrown. You got the bad boys, you got the going to work crew. If anything that's not in replica, like any guard that's not in replica of Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Benny Johnson, or you could say Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton, or you can even go to the extent of Lindsey Hunter and Mike James. If it's not in that era, if they're not in the mimic of going in that template of them, no guard should really be a part of this team because you go against the blueprint of how this team is built. Winning, that is. All right, that goes the same thing with the small the swing position, the shooters, everything. Detroit has a template. The Pistons have a template of how their team should be structured, even how the coaches or the organization, how it should be. They have a blueprint. You can say the same thing for the Red Wings. You can say the same thing for maybe possibly even for the Tigers. You cannot say that for the Lions. You cannot say that for the Lions. The only consistency that you have with the Lions is that the Fords own it. And since they have owned it, they have done what? Go to the so high. And then as soon as they get up to that peak, they tear it down. It gets torn down. I can't say they tear it down. Whoever they bring in tears it down. Now, somebody about to come in and tear down what Quinn and Patricia built versus taking it and capitalize. If they come in and build off of it, because I think Quinn and Patricia took it as far as they could. It went from mediocre. Look, the way this team is built now, this team is ready to go. All they need is somebody to be to get them over the hump. This is where I would endorse the Parcells deal. or getting somebody who has won, who can take this team, or let's say for a general manager or a coach that have actually took a team of being rebuilding on up and have got it to the mountaintop. Parcells is perfect for it. As general manager, maybe not even a coach. If you want to coach, you can do it if you want to. But the general manager, coach, whatever, he can go ahead and do that. Somebody of that caliber. But that's one of the Lions talking about that. But we're talking about the Pistons. Any player that they bring in here should have automatic respect for those who play their position. Not talking it because, you're trying to get some credibility and so forth, trying to say the right thing because it's PR, but they have respect for it. How do they have respect for it? They play it according to how they played it. Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Dennis Rodman, Mark Aguirre, you could say Rick Mahorn. That's all your power forward, small forwards, right? Look how they played it. The guys that you bring in that's playing that power forward, small forward position should be in the image of that. How they approach it. You got templates. Same thing for your center position. Let's say you have Bill Laimbeer and you have Ben Wallace. Your center should be in that mode. They should be in that mode. Detroit has a winning recipe. The Pistons has a winning recipe, just as well as the Lakers have a winning recipe. You have the Lakers you have the fast break, and then you actually have the triangle. You have two different eras. They have a recipe of success. The Pistons have a recipe of success because they won it 2 stints. They have a recipe. When you go up against how the recipe is, it cannot. I haven't seen it done here with the Pistons yet. When it went against it with the Flip Saunders and so forth, not Flip Saunders, but the Doug Collins, they went up against it, it died and didn't do anything. When the Stan Van Gundy went against it, died, didn't do anything. You have a blueprint here. Follow it. So I say all that to say that because it is based upon the comments of an outsider that's making the sense. They made a comment about a Pacific player got waived, and it said like they're considered raggedy because they didn't keep that very specific player. That's once again how the fans will actually embrace an outsider. That player does not represent what the culture was here, from the bad boys to the going to work crew. That's the problem with the fans here compared to the fans that was actually devoted towards the bad boys or the going to work crew. They have wavered. So in other words, since they had losing seasons here, they accept anything. So something that's like celebrity, something that's famous, they accept that. And they want a name. That's why they go after the name recognitions. But you have a blueprint here of how the Pistons is ran to win. This is not the most prominent destination to go to, but even in the midst of that, they have won in 2 stints. And they have a blueprint how to win. All the general manager have to do is follow the 2 general managers that did it. All the head coach got to do is follow the 2 head coaches that did it. All the players, the general manager have to do is get the players how they did it. You have a blueprint, how it works. You have a blueprint, how it works. But when you have an outsider, and watch how the fans actually react to that comment. The local media is going to eat it because the Detroit, that's what I'm saying. The point of what I'm saying is anybody can disrespect this city. Because the people that's actually in authority here or in a position of authority here, the media and so forth, they will embrace negative comments about your city. They embrace it. They will embrace it. They just trashed your city. They just trashed your team, and you finna exploit it because like it's news to talk about. Because it's what? Clickbait is going to give people something to listen to, whatever else, and you need for the money. There's no reason to respect you. There's a reason why Chicago, New York, LA, maybe even Miami are the way that they are. They will always be destinations to go to because they make their own money. They don't have to trash they don't have to trash their city to get money. They don't have to set people to trash it to get money. It generates itself because they respect themselves. This city, Detroit, does not respect itself. So anybody could come in and say anything they want about your what's the name, and the fans, whatever, through the YouTube, whatever, they would exploit. Let's talk about this. There's something to talk about. They just trash. Just look at the Pistons when the going to work crew when the visitors came in here, the Lakers. The fans went around their hotels and tried to keep them up all night, banging on stuff, making loud noise, blowing their horns, making because they were supporting their team. You're not going to come in here and disrespect us. That's what they were saying. Now you look at the fans now since they've been losing, so whatever, and disrespect have been coming in from the media because they've been losing. So now the fans joined in of the disrespect. Now I want this player on my team, but you know how that person as an outsider is going to say about something when they don't get what they want. I don't get it. I understand why the Lions lose. I completely do. They have nothing to build off of. They got the 50s and everything else before that where they could build off all that stuff there. But they still don't do it that way. They're doing it every which way. The reason why the 50s, the era of the championship, before the Super Bowl era kicked in, they was winning championships. There's a reason why they stopped winning. Because how they did it, they stopped doing it. And that's why I think it's Bobby Lane, the reason why he made the comment that he made. Because it went up against how it was done. And you're taking away, if it's built a certain way, keep it afloat. Build on top of that foundation. Now, somebody, I'll say that to say that because it's a comment that's in the article that's going to get a lot of recognition about the city. But if the fans really were about their Pistons, they don't allow insiders to say negative stuff about their Pistons. In other words, you can't stop them for saying stuff because the person's going to say it because they want attention. They're desperate for attention, and they have a platform to say something, so they're going to say it. But the intake of the city taking it and embracing it, because negative attention is still attention to those who are deprived of attention. Detroit doesn't get a lot of recognition, so it's deprived of attention. And when it does get attention, it's negativity. Whenever it gets positive attention, it doesn't get exploited that much. But negative attention always get the loud voice here. So you got this player that doesn't represent anything that you have here of winning. But the fans would embrace it because it has a name attached to it. Desperate. That's why I can't get down with a lot of the stuff that the fans do, or even with the upper management, how they pick their players and stuff like that. I can't, because we have two stints in the Pistons organization of winning. Even if you want to go to the shock, you can do it that way. But you have two franchises or two regimes that actually won here, and you got two examples how to win, but you don't want to do it. But you would embrace someone who blatantly disrespects it, blatantly disrespect you, and you would go ahead and blast it on your social media to something to talk about. The reason why people disrespect Detroit because it has no class. The people of Detroit has no class. You can just talk about them any kind of way. You go to Florida, you go to different other these places that are considered nice. Because it's based upon the community. The community of people have class, they have standards. They're, from the riots on down, it's been like kicking the can up the street. They constantly keep talking about Detroit. And then you get an outsider that, if you're not part of, if it's not one of the bad boys talking or one of the going to work crew talking, I'm talking about one of the core that built them. Like when it was losing to winning, one of the mainstays, if it's not one of them talking, then anything else of the outside voice of the outside world shouldn't have nothing to say. I mean, it shouldn't be played, shouldn't be echoed, shouldn't be considered something of news. But that just, of course, is my take. I just don't believe Detroit fans really respect their city as much as they say that they do. They say Detroit versus everybody. But they will allow certain things to come in because it has a name recognition. And if you understand what I'm saying, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because it has a name recognition, you would accept it because the city is deprived of winning or any kind of positive image. You would accept anything, even though this very thing is about to betray you. It's like bringing in a snake. You know it's possible it's going to bite you, but you're bringing it in because you're just that desperate. That's why the Lions organization will continually to lose, because they keep doing it. They keep doing it the same way, over and over and over and over and over and over and over. The same reason why they have been losing for 50 years is the same reason why Bobby Lane made the comment. The same reason. They don't want to do it a different way. They got their way of doing it, which caused them their quarterback during that time. And they've been losing ever since. The same way that they're still doing it to this very day. And how they may select their next general manager and their next coach may be done the same way. If they do it the same way that they have been doing it, it's a guaranteed loss. Because they still haven't went up against the very reason why they started losing in the first place over 50 years ago. They did it. They were winning championships all the way up to the Ford took over the team. So from the start of what the Fords did, they did something there. From that point all the way up to now, that it's a success for losing. It's something that they did that's causing them to lose. I don't call it a curse or nothing like that. It's just something that they continually to do. As long as they continually to do it, they're going to keep on losing the way that they're losing. Either that or the whole system is rigged. With that being said, that's me talking about the Lions briefly, but going back to the Pistons, don't let people disrespect your team. If y'all really are fans, y'all should, exploiting the negative news. And I'm looking at the local media and whatever else, and they exploit it. Well, this person said that the Detroit is raggedy. And they're exploiting it like it's news, like it's something to be talked about. Because that person that is posting that article is deprived of attention, and they need all the kind of how can I say name recognition they possibly can get, because they really don't have much of a fan base. Their time of doing the way they did it is over, and they basically was trashing the city themselves. So they're a miserable reporter that keep reprinting negativity, and that's how they got their fame. That's how they got their money. That's how they got their status. But now that time is dead. Anybody with a social media account, whatever, can go ahead and exploit something. So the name of those of so-called mainstays or for the mainstream, they're pretty much done. But they got to keep promoting negative energy, because it's always somebody from the outside or someone is willing to sell their city out. Once again, I made the last video about how the Pistons bring in these players that's not really like Piston DNA. And as long as they're not Piston, unless they can merge to that Piston DNA. In other words, Isaiah Thomas, maybe Bill Laimbeer, maybe Rick Mahorn, maybe a few other ones, made this, whatever that they did to create this bond. Like, this is our image. Not the image of playing dirty, I can say throwing people on the ground and playing hardball. I'm not saying that. They did something off the court that brought them together. And then anybody that they bring in, if you don't buy into that, you're not a part of them. The Lions don't have that. And they upper management, all the way down. They don't have that. The Pistons had that in two stints. They had that with the Going to Work crew and the Bad Boys. The Red Wings, I don't know what's going on with that. The Tigers, I don't know what's going on with that. But the Pistons is what I do know. And if the Pistons want to win again, they're going to have to do it the exact same way. They develop a core that anybody we bring in, any free agent, any rookie or any drafted player, they're going to have to buy into this. But the players that's assembled going to have to create that. That's what the hard work of Isaiah Thomas, Bill Laimbeer, and Rick. I want to say Vinnie Johnson was probably the first three players here. They went to war to build that culture. They went to war for that, along with Chuck Daly and Jack McCloskey. And each player that they brought in, they had to buy into what they started. The Lions don't have anything. The Pistons have the opportunity to do that. If Casey doesn't buy into that, let him go. Troy Weaver too. It's a culture here. And any media that trashing the city or throwing around articles or whatever Instagram posts or whatever that it could be that's trashing your city is speaking very highly about you. You will sell your city out for a few dollars. And if anybody's supporting that, you can't really say Detroit versus everybody because they are part of your problem. Why is Detroit versus everybody? And they're not, the people that's doing it is not really part of Detroit. So you got these podcasts that do it too. I'm calling it out because it's like at some point as a so-called representative of your city, as you want to say it as that, you should get tired of just being kicked around and people just trashing you like any kind of way. They treat your city like it's nothing because the residents or representation of the people that's there, they treat it like it's nothing. And of course, I can make that very largely by saying, do you build up your community? You know, the smallest thing, by picking up trash, by doing this, whatever. There's no reason for anybody to respect you in this city because you don't respect yourself. I'm out. That's the last bit.